In late November 2025, Cyclone Senyar struck Sumatra with unprecedented force, unleashing a torrent of destruction across the island. The cyclone's powerful winds and relentless rain battered the provinces of Aceh, West Sumatra and North Sumatra, triggering catastrophic floods and deadly landslides that swept through entire communities. Homes, businesses, and entire villages vanished overnight as rivers burst their banks and the land gave way. The sheer scale of devastation was unlike anything the region had ever witnessed, with entire neighborhoods submerged beneath muddy waters and familiar landscapes transformed beyond recognition. Families were torn apart, and the daily rhythms of life were replaced by chaos and loss. Parents searched desperately for missing children, while elders clung to memories of homes that no longer stood. The sense of security that once defined these communities was shattered in a matter of hours. The disaster was a brutal reminder of our vulnerability, leaving deep scars on both the land and its people. Survivors wandered through the wreckage, their faces etched with shock and disbelief, as the magnitude of their loss slowly set in. Livelihoods were destroyed, farmers' fields submerged, shops reduced to rubble, and communities scattered into shelters. The economic impact was immediate and severe, as families lost not only their homes but also their means of survival. For many, the future seemed uncertain and frightening. Survivors now faced the daunting task of rebuilding from nothing, carrying the trauma of what they've endured. With little more than the clothes on their backs, they sifted through debris, searching for anything salvageable. A photograph, a keepsake, a piece of their former lives. Yet, amid the devastation, stories of courage and compassion emerged. Neighbors rescuing neighbors, strangers offering help, and communities coming together in the darkest of times. Acts of kindness became lifelines, reminding everyone that hope could still be found. Even in the face of overwhelming adversity, the nation rallied behind Sumatra as volunteers and aid workers poured in from across Indonesia. Relief centers sprang up overnight, providing food, shelter, and medical care to those in desperate need. The Indonesian flag, raised over makeshift shelters, became a symbol of unity and resilience. The government was confronted with a monumental challenge: to respond swiftly and compassionately to one of the deadliest disasters in recent memory. Emergency response teams worked around the clock, coordinating rescue operations and delivering critical supplies to isolated areas. The path forward would demand not just resources, but unity, empathy, and decisive action. Recovery would be a long and difficult journey, requiring collaboration between local leaders, national agencies, and international partners. In the face of overwhelming loss, the spirit of solidarity became Sumatra's guiding light. Together, the people of Sumatra and their supporters began the slow process of healing, determined to rebuild stronger and more united than ever before. The scale of the disaster is staggering, almost beyond comprehension. In a matter of hours, entire communities were transformed by the relentless force of Cyclone Senyar, leaving a trail of devastation that stretches as far as the eye can see. As of December 18, 2025, Cyclone Senyar claimed 1,068 lives, each one a story cut short, each loss echoing through the hearts of over 1,000 families now plunged into mourning. The pain is immeasurable, the grief shared by entire communities who have lost loved ones, friends, and neighbors. More than 190 people remain missing, their families trapped in agonizing uncertainty, clinging to hope as days pass with no word. For these families, every moment is a test of endurance, as they search for answers amid the chaos and destruction. Around 7,000 survivors were injured, many suffering wounds both visible and invisible. Hospitals and clinics are overwhelmed, and for many, the journey to recovery will be long and uncertain, marked by physical pain and emotional trauma. The floods displaced nearly 578,000 residents, forcing them to abandon their homes and seek refuge in crowded shelters or with relatives. Families have been torn from their communities, their daily lives upended, and their futures clouded by uncertainty. Over 147,000 homes were destroyed or severely damaged, each one a lost sanctuary, a place of memories now reduced to rubble. For many, the sense of safety and belonging has been shattered, replaced by the daunting task of starting over. These numbers represent not just statistics, but lives upended and futures thrown into doubt. Behind every figure is a family struggling to cope, children facing an uncertain tomorrow, and elders mourning the loss of everything familiar. The logistical and humanitarian challenge is immense. Providing food, water, and shelter to hundreds of thousands is a race against time. Aid workers and volunteers labor around the clock, striving to meet basic needs and offer comfort in the face of overwhelming adversity. The destruction of property and livelihoods has left entire communities adrift. Businesses have been wiped out, fields ruined, and infrastructure crippled, threatening the economic survival of countless families and the region as a whole. The sheer magnitude of loss compels a response that goes beyond immediate relief, demanding a long-term commitment to rebuilding. Recovery will require not just resources, but resilience, unity, and hope for a better future. The figures are a sobering call to action for the nation. They remind us that behind every statistic is a human life, and that the path to healing will require compassion, determination, and solidarity. Only a comprehensive, sustained effort can restore hope and stability to Sumatra. The road ahead is long, but with collective resolve, the people of Sumatra can rebuild their lives and communities, forging a future from the ashes of tragedy. In the wake of the devastating floods, the government acted swiftly, launching a direct financial aid program designed to provide immediate relief to those most affected. Recognizing the urgent needs of displaced families, officials prioritized getting cash assistance directly into the hands of survivors, aiming to restore a sense of stability and hope in the midst of chaos. This initiative is intended to help survivors regain their footing, offering them the means to purchase food, water, and other daily necessities while they remain in temporary shelters. The government has proposed a daily living allowance of 10,000 rupiah per person, distributed over a period of 3 months. This approach empowers families to make their own choices about what they need most, whether it's food, medicine, or other essentials, and gives them a measure of control during an uncertain time. For a family of 5, this translates to 50,000 rupiah each day, a sum that, while modest, is meant to restore dignity and autonomy to those who have lost so much. It's a step toward normalcy, allowing parents to provide for their children and make decisions for their households. However, questions remain about whether this amount is truly sufficient. Government officials are actively consulting with community leaders and aid organizations to review the adequacy of the allowance, ensuring it genuinely supports families' basic needs as prices fluctuate and recovery continues. In addition to the daily allowance, each affected household will receive a one-time grant of 3 million rupiah. This grant is specifically intended to help families replace essential items lost in the floods, such as bedding, clothing, and basic household goods, so they can begin rebuilding their lives. By combining daily support with a lump sum grant, the government's multi-pronged approach addresses both immediate sustenance and the longer-term challenge of rebuilding homes and livelihoods. Aid workers and volunteers are also distributing food, clean water, and building materials to supplement the cash assistance. In total, over 100 billion rupiah has been allocated for these relief programs. The government has emphasized the importance of transparency and efficiency in the distribution process, aiming to prevent delays and ensure that every rupiah reaches those who need it most. Ultimately, the true measure of success will be how quickly and fairly this support is delivered to the people of Sumatra, offering them not just financial aid, but a renewed sense of hope and the foundation to rebuild their futures. The government's response extends to those who suffered the deepest losses. Families who lost loved ones will receive 15 million rupiah in compensation, a gesture of solidarity and recognition of their grief. This support helps cover funeral costs and offers a small cushion as families face an uncertain future. Seriously injured survivors are eligible for 5 million rupiah to help with medical expenses and recovery. These programs are more than financial aid. They are a moral commitment to honor every life affected. Compassionate, respectful distribution is essential to ensure this aid brings comfort, not bureaucracy. In tragedy, these gestures affirm that no one grieves or heals alone. For over 147,000 families left homeless, the government has pledged to build new, permanent housing. President Prabowo's administration will begin constructing 2,000 homes in mid-December, marking a shift from emergency relief to long-term recovery. These homes will be built in safer locations, incorporating disaster-resilient design to protect against future calamities. A special task force will oversee not just housing, but the restoration of infrastructure and essential services. The promise of new homes is a beacon of hope for families in limbo, signaling a real commitment to their future. The success of this plan will be a critical test of the government's capacity and resolve. For many, the sight of new construction will be the first sign that a new beginning is possible. Rebuilding Sumatra will require an estimated 51.82 trillion rupiah, over $3.3 billion US. This budget covers new homes, infrastructure repairs, and the revival of devastated local economies. Initial funds have already been disbursed, 20 billion rupiah to each affected province and 4 billion to each impacted district. These resources empower local governments to address urgent needs and coordinate relief. Transparency and accountability are vital to ensure every rupiah benefits the victims. The scale of the challenge is immense, demanding sustained commitment and careful management. Recovery will be a marathon, not a sprint, requiring years of dedicated effort. Delivering aid to remote flood-ravaged communities has proven a daunting challenge. Destroyed roads and bridges have left many villages isolated, delaying critical supplies. In desperation, some residents have raised white flags, signaling their urgent need for help. The government has responded by deploying helicopters and boats, and collaborating with military and volunteers to reach the most inaccessible areas. Effective aid distribution depends on creative problem-solving and robust coordination. Overcoming these barriers is essential to ensure that no survivor is left behind. President Prabowo has taken a hands-on approach, ordering ministers to visit flood-hit regions weekly and stay connected to the crisis on the ground. This direct involvement aims to accelerate relief, cut through bureaucracy, and keep the focus on survivors. The president has also ordered an audit of Toba Pulp Lestari to investigate whether environmental mismanagement worsened the disaster. This move signals a commitment to long-term prevention and corporate accountability. Frontline responders, military, police, and medical teams are being recognized for their heroic efforts. Their dedication is the backbone of the emergency response. Leadership now means not just managing the crisis, but learning from it and honoring those who serve. The effectiveness of these actions will be measured by real results for the people of Sumatra. The road to recovery is long, but the government's comprehensive plan offers a framework for hope. Success depends on delivering aid quickly and fairly to every survivor, especially the most vulnerable. Delays or inequities can deepen trauma and erode trust. The president's call for environmental audits is a step toward building a more resilient, sustainable Indonesia. Reconstruction should not just restore what was lost, but create safer, greener communities. The true story of Sumatra's recovery will be written by the resilience of its people and the empathy of its leaders. By acting with speed, fairness, and compassion, we can help Sumatra turn the page from tragedy to hope.